That's it. The up key right here. Right there. And start them up. Okay.
That's very sensitive. It picks up everything.
Johnny, can you play me one little stanza of Silver and Gold? As Johnny was playing that song, I'm just sitting, waiting to come before you, and just thinking about conversations I've had this week about what's going on in the world. And what came to my mind, Johnny, is we know the story. That his story means that when all said and done, when the trumpet sounds,
Amen.
the dead in Christ shall rise, and we who remain will be caught up to meet him in the air.
Amen.
So, as bad as it looks, we are wrapped up in his story. So, as Johnny is playing Silver and Gold, I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. Because what you see will not always be, that rhymes. But eternity is before us if we stay in his hands. So thank you, Johnny, for that reminder. And good morning. Good morning. I told you spring was coming. A couple of weeks ago, it was snowing. And it didn't seem like spring was coming, but God is so faithful. So I just want to thank you for joining us. And it is still Women's History Month, and I have been bringing before you women in the scripture that are countercultural when they touched Jesus, when they were in his presence. Jesus was countercultural. He didn't care about anybody but the person who he was interacting with. So last week I talked about the sinful woman, the penitent woman, who went into a banquet and washed Jesus' feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. Countercultural, as Jesus allowed her to worship. And this morning, I'm going to talk to you about the woman with the issue. She's not named because whatever the issue is, it could be my issue, your issue. Her issue was hemorrhaging, a woman with an issue of blood. And just let me share with you the flow. You know, Jesus had just told his disciples let's go to the other side. So, of course, Jesus was in the boat. You know the story. The storm came. They woke Jesus up. How can you sleep, Lord, when we're in the midst of the storm? He gets up and he says, "Oh, ye little faith." He speaks to the storm. He says, "Peace, be still." The boat goes to a place called, Pastor, what is the name of that place? The name of that place? Garderies, where he met a demon, a man who was full of demons. As a matter of fact, Jesus said, "What's your name?" And he said, "My name is Legion, for there are many." And we know that Jesus cast the demons out of the man. The demons went into the pigs, and they ran over the bank, and they were killed. So we have Jesus who is over disasters, Jesus over demons, and now we have Jesus disembarking in Capernaum. And who meets him there is a ruler of the synagogue named Jairus. What in the world is a ruler of the synagogue? How is he seeking out Jesus? He's seeking out Jesus because he's desperate. He's falling at Jesus' feet and asking Jesus if he would come heal his daughter, 12 years old, who's dying. When you're desperate, the titles go out the window. You're desperate. And who does he seek? He seeks out Jesus. And of course, Jesus is on his way. At this point in time, a crowd has grown, and a crowd is following Jesus. They're pressing after him, and they're on their way to heal Jairus' daughter. They're on their way. And all of a sudden, the crowd stops, and Jesus says, "Who touched me?" So you have this anonymous woman who is hemorrhaging, who is a castaway, who's living but really dying because because no one can get near her. Scripture says that she's gone from physician to physician. No one could heal her. So here she is, desperate, just like Jairus, desperate. She didn't care at that point in time that she shouldn't have been in the crowd. All she wanted to do was touch Jesus. Desperation makes you do what you don't normally do. So you had this anonymous woman trying to stay anonymous, going with the crowd at the feet of Jesus, touching his garment. He says, "Who touched me?" I remember when the pastor and I were on the boat and we heard this cry, this screaming. And the pastor said, "Who is that?" I said, "That's Aaliyah. That's my granddaughter." I knew the sound of her cry. And I'm grandma. So don't you know that Jesus will hear the sound of your cry? So he touched Jesus. Jesus said, "Who touched me?" Peter said, "Lord, how can you ask who touched you and all these people pulling and pushing on you?" It didn't matter. Jesus knew that there was a touch. He asked who touched, and this woman trembling comes out of the crowd and acknowledges that she was the one. In that point in time, the crowd became anonymous to Jesus. Before she was anonymous, and now the crowd is anonymous. It was just Jesus and the woman that he touched. And he said, "Daughter, your faith has made you whole." Daughter is a word of endearment. Daughter, countercultural Jesus had her stand out of the crowd, ostracized by others, but loved by Jesus. Daughter, your faith has made you whole. If you're desperate and you've gone to so many people, so many places, Jesus knows your cry. He knows your name. So I want you just to remember, our Jesus is counterculture. He seeks you. He hears you. And he knows your name. At this point in time, our Johnny's here and he's going to give us a praise song. 2. And good morning.